រំលីកជាងនាយករដ្ឋមន្ត្រីនៃសាធារណរដ្ឋប្រជាមានិតចិនហើយឧត្តមលោកជំទាវប្រមុខរដ្ឋាភិបាលហើយឧត្តមលោកជំទាវលោកស្រីជាបឋមខ្ញុំសូមសម្ដែងនៅសេចក្តីរីករាយនិងត្រេកអរយ៉ាងក្រៃលែងដែលបានចូលរួមថ្លែងសន្ទរកថាតាមប្រព័ន្ធវីដេអូនិងសូមកោតសរសើរនិងវាតម្លៃខ្ពស់ចំពោះសាធារណរដ្ឋប្រជាមានិតចិនដែលបានរៀបចំវេទិកាអភិវឌ្ឍធម្មពលកាបូនទាបថៃយានឆ្នាំ2021ក្រោមមូលបត្រធម្មពលអាកាសធាតុបរិស្ថានដ៏មានសារៈសំខាន់នេះឡើងក្នុងបរិយាកាសដែលពិភពលោកទាំងមូលបាននឹងកំពុងប្រយុទ្ធនឹងជំងឺ COVID-19 ការរៀបចំវេទិកានេះគឺជាការក្រើនរំលឹកកុំឲ្យយើងទាំងអស់គ្នាបំភ្លេចចោលនៅបញ្ហាធម្មពលអាកាសធាតុនិងបរិស្ថានដែលទាមទារឲ្យបន្តមានការយកចិត្តទុកដាក់និងការទទួលខុសត្រូវតាមរយៈការគិតគូរជាប់ជានិច្ចក្នុងការស្វែងរកដំណោះស្រាយសកលរួមក្នុងបរិយាកាសដែលបណ្ដាប្រទេសជាច្រើនបាននឹងកំពុងគិតគូររៀបចំផែនការស្ដារសង្គមសេដ្ឋកិច្ចឡើងវិញការរៀបចំវេទិកានេះនឹងបង្កើតជាកលានុវត្តភាពដ៏ល្អមួយក្នុងការជំរុញសន្ទុះនៃការអភិវឌ្ឍធម្មពលកាបូនទាបសម្ដៅដោះស្រាយបញ្ហាធម្មពលអាកាសធាតុនិងបរិស្ថាននឹងឈានទៅសម្រេចបាននៅគោលដៅអភិវឌ្ឍប្រកបដោយចីរភាពនិងគោលដៅនៃកិច្ចព្រមព្រៀងទីក្រុងប៉ារីស្តីពីការប្រែប្រួលអាកាសធាតុជាការពិតបញ្ហាធម្មពលអាកាសធាតុនិងបរិស្ថានជាពិសេសការប្រែប្រួលអាកាសធាតុនៅតែជាបញ្ហាប្រឈមដ៏ចម្បងនិងក្តៅគគុកសម្រាប់មនុស្សជាតិទាំងមូលដែលបន្តគំរាមកំហែងដល់សុខភាពមនុស្សសន្តិសុខស្បៀងហេដ្ឋារចនាសម្ព័ន្ធសង្គមសេដ្ឋកិច្ចនិងប្រព័ន្ធអេកូឡូស៊ីជារួមជាពិសេសតាមរយៈការបង្កនូវគ្រោះធម្មជាតិដូចជាគ្រោះទឹកជំនន់និងភ្លើងឆេះព្រៃជាដើមការនេះឆ្លុះបញ្ចាំងឲ្យឃើញពីភាពចាំបាច់នៃការធ្វើបដិវត្តធម្មពលឲ្យបានលឿននិងប្រកបដោយយុត្តិធម៌និងសមធម៌ដើម្បីផ្លាស់ប្ដូរពីការផលិតនិងប្រើប្រាស់ធម្មពលដែលបញ្ចេញកាបូនច្រើននៅក្នុងបរិយាកាសឆ្ពោះទៅរកការផលិតនិងប្រើប្រាស់ធម្មពលស្អាតអាចកកើតឡើងវិញនិងមានប្រសិទ្ធភាពជាងមុនជាមួយគ្នានេះការអភិវឌ្ឍធម្មពលកាបូនទាបដូចជាបច្ចេកវិទ្យាជូងថ្មស្អាតការប្រើប្រាស់បច្ចេកវិទ្យាស្តុកទុកកាបូនការប្រើបច្ចេកវិទ្យាផលិតហីដ្រូសែនពីជូងថ្មជាដើមនឹងក្លាយជាវិធីសាស្ត្រដ៏ចាំបាច់ក្នុងការប្រយុទ្ធនឹងការប្រែប្រួលអាកាសធាតុក្នុងទ្រង់ទ្រាយធំឯកឧត្តមលោកជំទាវលោកស្រីអ្វីត្បិតតែកម្ពុជាជាប្រទេសដែលមានកម្រិតនៃការអភិវឌ្ឍទាបរាជរដ្ឋាភិបាលកម្ពុជាមានការបដិញ្ញាចិត្តខ្ពស់និងកំណត់យកបញ្ហាធម្មពលអាកាសធាតុនិងបរិស្ថានជារបៀបវិរៈគោលនយោបាយដ៏សំខាន់និងសម្រាប់រយៈពេលវែងក្រោមអភិក្រមជាបញ្ហារួមប៉ុន្តែការអនុវត្តផ្សេងគ្នាទៅតាមការទទួលខុសត្រូវនិងសមត្ថភាពរៀងខ្លួនជាក់ស្ដែងកាលពីថ្ងៃទី31ខែធ្នូឆ្នាំ2020កម្ពុជាបានដាក់ជូនលេខាធិការដ្ឋាននៃអនុសញ្ញាក្របខ័ណ្ឌសហប្រជាជាតិស្ដីពីការប្រែប្រួលអាកាសធាតុនៅរបាយការណ៍បច្ចុប្បន្នភាពនៃការចូលរួមចំណែករបស់ជាតិដែលបានកំណត់គោលដៅកាត់បន្ថយការបញ្ចេញអូស្មန်ផ្ទះកញ្ចក់ឲ្យបានប្រមាណ 60.6 លានតោនសមមូលអូស្មានកាបូនិកត្រឹមឆ្នាំ2030នៅក្នុងវិស័យព្រៃឈើធម្មពលឧស្សាហកម្មកសិកម្មនិងការគ្រប់គ្រងសំណង់បន្ថែមលើនេះកម្ពុជាក៏បាននឹងកំពុងរៀបចំយុទ្ធសាស្ត្ររយៈពេលវែងប្រកបដោយអព្យាក្រឹតភាពកាបូនដោយរំពឹងថានឹងចប់សពគ្រប់នៅចុងឆ្នាំ2021នេះការដោះស្រាយបញ្ហាធម្មពលអាកាសធាតុនិងបរិស្ថានគឺជាកិច្ចការដ៏លំបាកមួយដែលទាមទារឲ្យមានការចូលរួមប្រកបដោយស្មារតីទទួលខុសត្រូវនិងការបញ្ញាចិត្តខ្ពស់ពីគ្រប់ភាគីពាក់ព័ន្ធទាំងអស់ក្នុងន័យនេះខ្ញុំសូមអំពាវនាវឲ្យមានការពង្រឹងកិច្ចសន្ទនានិងកិច្ចសហប្រតិបត្តិការអន្តរជាតិរវាងគ្រប់ភាគីពាក់ព័ន្ធក្នុងគោលបំណងបង្កើតឲ្យបាននៅអនាគតបៃតងរួមគ្នាមួយប្រកបដោយចីរភាពដោយមិនទុកនរណាម្នាក់ចោលនោះឡើយខ្ញុំក៏សូមអំពាវនាវផងដែរឲ្យមានការបញ្ញាចិត្តផ្នែកនយោបាយក្នុងការចូលរួមឲ្យអស់លទ្ធភាពពីគ្រប់ប្រទេសទាំងអស់នៅតាមដំណាក់កាលនៃការអភិវឌ្ឍប្រទេសនីមួយៗរបស់ខ្លួនក្នុងការជំរុញកំណើនបៃតងការកាត់បន្ថយការបញ្ចេញកាបូននិងការធានាឲ្យប្រជាពលរដ្ឋគ្រប់រូបទទួលបាននៅធម៌ពលនិរន្តរភាពក្នុងតម្លៃសមរម្យនិងមានការបញ្ចេញកាបូនទាបជាមួយគ្នានេះខ្ញុំក៏សូមលើកទឹកចិត្តឲ្យមានការជួយគ្នាទៅវិញទៅមកប្រកបដោយស្មារតីសាមគ្គីភាពជាពិសេសតាមរយៈការផ្ទេរបច្ចេកវិទ្យានិងការផ្ដល់ហិរញ្ញប្បទានជាពិសេសទៅដល់បណ្ដាប្រទេសដែលមានធនធានទាបទន្ទឹមនេះកម្ពុជាក៏បានកត់សម្គាល់ដោយយកចិត្តទុកដាក់ផងដែរនៅគំនិតព្រួយផ្រាំបង្កើតផែនការពាណិជ្ជកម្មទីផ្សារជួញដូរកាបូននៅក្នុងប្រទេសចិនប្រទេសកម្ពុជាទទួលបានជោគជ័យក្នុងការចូលរួមទីផ្សារកាបូនស្ម័គ្រចិត្តក្នុងរយៈពេលជាច្រើនឆ្នាំកន្លងទៅនេះហើយកម្ពុជាកំពុងរៀបចំការងារមួយចំនួនបន្ថែមទៀតនៅក្រោមកិច្ចព្រមព្រៀងទីក្រុងប៉ារីសស្តីពីការប្រែប្រួលអាកាសធាតុកម្ពុជាចាត់ទុកឥណទានកាបូននេះជាប្រភពធនធានហិរញ្ញប្បទានប្រកបដោយចីរភាពដ៏សំខាន់មួយសម្រាប់សកម្មភាពកាត់បន្ថយការបញ្ចេញអូស្មန်ផ្ទះកញ្ចក់ហើយកម្ពុជាបើកចំហទទួលការចូលរួមនៅក្នុងភាពជាដៃគូជាមួយបណ្ដាប្រទេសនិងវិស័យឯកជននានាដែលមានចំណាប់អារម្មណ៍ជាទីបញ្ចប់ខ្ញុំសូមជូនពរឲ្យវេទិកានេះប្រព្រឹត្តទៅប្រកបដោយភាពជោគជ័យនិងសូមជូនពរឲ្យឯកឧត្តមលោកជំទាវលោកលោកស្រីមានសុខភាពល្អបរិបូរណ៍និងទទួលបានជោគជ័យចំពោះគ្រប់ភារកិច្ចសូមអរគុណ
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Banteay-Menchei has been hit by heavy flooding. Days of torrential rain has left much of Serey-Sopon city submerged, with hospitals in dire need already dealing with the province's surge in Delta-related COVID-19 cases. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko has the latest.
Torrential rain has lashed central Thailand and northwestern Cambodia in recent days. Worst hit Banteay-Menchei. Its provincial capital, Serey-Sopon city, is on high alert. Its referral hospital has been heavily affected. Doctors and nurses have scrambled to get medicine, materials, and equipment out of harm's way. They've made an urgent appeal for donations of blood. Commander of the province 51st Infantry Brigade, General Singh Tum, has called on residents to be extra vigilant, particularly those with small children. He says the high water levels pose an increased risk of animals and insect bites. The floods have also affected 100 homes along the border in Malay, Boenbeng, Oseralao, and Topong communes. 10 families had to be evacuated. Authorities have confirmed that water levels are already receding and that roads will soon return to normal. But the threat hasn't gone away. The Ministry of Water Resources says a low-pressure system over the Indian Ocean will bring more heavy rain to the kingdom over the next 5 days. Yuri Matosko, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Lashings of heavy rain in Phnom Penh late Wednesday afternoon also brought flash floods to parts of the capital, and just as rush hour started. Underpasses were flooded in Chum Chow commune near the airport. Many chose to pull over and wait for the water level to drop before continuing their journey home. Others had little choice but to get off their motos and push. Heavy backlogs built up as traffic ground to a halt. This is a common sight during monsoon season across most of Southeast Asia. Across the capital, just west of the old Olympic Stadium, parts of 7 Makara were also under about half a metre of water. Bak Tuk appeared to get the worst of it, with roads turned into rivers and waves lapping at shopfronts. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. 2 brothers, aged 9 and 14, are not to be held liable for the death of their 4-year-old cousin. She died after having a phone charger wrapped around her neck. Police say the cousins had been fighting in the lead-up to the tragedy and say proper parental supervision would have prevented the little girl's death. EAC News reporter Reo Soko has the latest.
A squabble between children, leading to the tragic death of a 4-year-old girl in Suaireng's Naraten village. 2 brothers, aged 9 and 14 years, were initially held liable, but police say, given their age, they cannot be arrested or charged. They need their parents' supervision. Suai Churong District Police Inspectorate Colonel Pin An says that the girl was strangled on Monday during a fight with her cousins. She'd been left in the care of her aunt by her mother, who works at a garment factory in Bavet. Found unresponsive by her aunt, the girl was rushed to hospital but died shortly after arrival. A forensic examination revealed bruises in different parts of her body, leading to the investigation by police. Cambodian children's law prohibits the arrest of minors under 14. That children will be counseled, while police have stressed just how important adult supervision is, most especially while schools remain closed. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. It might have been built as the showpiece for the 2023 SEA Games, but the newly finished Moradok Decho National Stadium might soon be road tested earlier than thought. Cambodia is using it to join the bidding for the 2020 AFF Suzuki Cup. This has been announced by the president of the Ad Hoc Commission on the Football Federation of Cambodia, Put Tida. After 8 years of construction, Cambodia is wasting no time taking advantage of its new sports showpiece. Located in Phnom Penh's Choi Chang Va, the stadium resembles a ship under sail. It's been designed as a symbol of the long-standing friendship between Cambodia and China. It can seat 60,000 people. Cambodia is hoping it'll be the home of the 2020 AFF Suzuki Cup, which will run from the 5th of December until the 1st of January. Along with Cambodia, Singapore, Thailand, and Indonesia have also shown an interest in hosting the tournament. The AFF Suzuki Cup is a biennial football competition organized by the ASEAN Football Federation. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. On to international news now, and the Taliban are out on the streets of Kabul to protect people's property and lives amid an administrative vacuum following their takeover. A new government has yet to be named, and few details about how the group intends to govern have been released. It's causing anxiety around the world, but most especially on the streets of Kabul. All we know is that this is the new Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. We don't know who's in charge, what the government will look like, when it will first meet, or how it will actually govern. While Kabul residents say the security situation has improved, life is getting tough. Some banks, most hospitals, and government offices remain open. But while local market vendors have things to sell, few people are buying, given the high levels of anxiety about what the next few days and weeks could bring. Prices are soaring, and long queues outside banks underline just how worried residents of the capital are. The local currency, the Afghani, is fast losing its value against the US dollar. At the border with Pakistan, many money traders are refusing to exchange it. The fall in the exchange rate has seen prices for many basic foodstuffs ratchet up daily, squeezing people who have seen their salaries disappear and their savings put out of reach by the closure of the banks. The Taliban says the problems will ease once a new government is in place. It's appealed to other countries to maintain economic relations. One country that will be key is the United States, but its focus right now is getting its remaining nationals and Afghan contract workers out of the country after its shambolic airlift.
You know, we have obviously had contacts with the Taliban. We had it during the effort that we were trying to midwife a negotiation. Those conversations have continued intensively to enable the evacuation of that we undertook and to try to get the kinds of guarantees of safe passage, et cetera, and tolerance, and to talk about the standards set in the UN Security Council resolution, to talk about the terrorist threat as well, because the expectation is that they claim to be able to control the security of Afghanistan. We'll see if that is the case. That is a far cry from formal recognition. We will continue to have conversations that serve our interest, as will our allies and partners. But the first thing we want to see is them live up to the obligations that they have under the UN Charter, as well as the public statements that they themselves have made about their expectation for an Afghanistan that respects human rights, respects international law, allows international citizens and Afghans who wish to leave.
Back in Kabul, the Taliban is taking stock at the capital's main airport. It says it hopes to restore operations there in the coming days. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Now for a look at some other news making headlines around the globe this Thursday, the 2nd of September.
A huge fire has swept through a chemical plant that manufactures cologne and disinfectant outside Istanbul. More than 50 factories were damaged. 140 firefighters and 61 trucks responded to the scene. It took them 8 hours to extinguish the blaze, which was peppered by occasional explosions. One business owner was injured while trying to put out the fire. 2 firefighters were also hit by a metal tank.
2 climate change-related disasters also making headlines. Intense rain hit Spain on Wednesday, flooding towns and around 7,000 homes. Thousands of people were badly affected. They are without electricity, and some roads and rail links have been closed. The storm, which gained strength due to high temperatures and humidity, hit especially hard. The UN says with the pandemic and extreme weather events happening at the same time, we live in a multi-hazard world.
The number of affected people and the economic loss is getting higher and higher because of the increase in frequency and intensity of extreme weather events and climate change. And we've seen this this year alone during this summer in the month of July, which was the hottest since records began. There were heat waves and there were floods. So we are not, unfortunately, in a safe place. And the report tells us that the 50-year trend is quite alarming.
That trend has seen floods and heat waves driven by climate change increase 5-fold. More than 2 million people have been killed. The economic cost is fast approaching $4 trillion.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Cambodia can be proud of its lone Paralympian at the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics. Van Von finished in 7th place in Wednesday night's final of the men's T54 100-meter wheelchair race. He finished in a new personal best time of 14.21 seconds. Finland's Leo-Pekka Tati looked to be the race favourite. He's won gold in the last 4 Paralympic finals in the same event, but it was Thailand's Atiwatpaing Noa who crossed the finish line first. The T54 final was the highlight of Wednesday night's action, and Van Von did us all proud. In the women's T36 100-meter race, it was China's Shi Yiting who produced a gold medal performance to break the world record with a time of 13.61 seconds. Russia's Elena Ivanova seemed pretty happy to bag the silver. It was also silver for Canada's Paralympic veteran Brent Lakotos, who was looking to hold on to his T53 men's 100-meter crown, but gold went to Thailand's Payo Bangsakon. You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Cristiano Ronaldo has entered the history books. He's become the all-time leading scorer in men's international football after scoring his 110th and 111th goals on Wednesday night.
Ronaldo made history in true style. Not just 2 goals, but 2 headers, and in the dying minutes of the match. They gave Portugal a 2-1 comeback win over Ireland in Group A of the World Cup qualifiers. The Manchester United forward almost had a hat-trick, but saw Gavin Buzunu save his first half penalty. It was the 89th minute of the game when Ronaldo entered the history books, surpassing Iranian Ali Daei's record of 109 goals with a towering header. He then produced a carbon copy in the 6 minutes of stoppage time to score goal number 111. Back at Man United for the next season of the English Premier League, there's no doubt Ronaldo will take his record even higher.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Lionel Messi will play in Thursday night's World Cup qualifier against Venezuela in Caracas. Despite having played less than half an hour this season for his new club Paris Saint-Germain, Messi has been declared fit to hit the field at the Caracas Olympic Stadium. Messi spent Wednesday training with Argentina ahead of their 3 qualifiers over the next week. The 2-times world champions play Brazil in Sao Paulo on Sunday and then Bolivia in Buenos Aires next Thursday. They sit in 2nd place behind Brazil in the 10-team South American qualifying group. The top 4 teams will qualify automatically for Qatar 2022. If Messi was a bit out of breath during training, he didn't show it. He's not played a full match since the 10th of July, when he started for Argentina in the Copa America final. Much of his time since then has been dominated by his move to Paris after 18 years with Barcelona. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. For the first time in nearly 80 years in Sri Lanka, an elephant has given birth to twins. The calves were born on Tuesday in a wildlife reserve. The twin males are the mother's 2nd and 3rd offspring. She gave birth to her first male calf in 2009. The twins were born at the Pinnawala Elephant Orphanage in the Central Hills of Sri Lanka, one of the country's biggest tourist attractions. It was set up in 1975 to care for wild elephants that needed to be rescued and treated for various injuries. Experts say the last time an elephant in Sri Lanka gave birth to twins was back in 1941. The 25-year-old mother, 17-year-old father, and 36-hour-old calves are all said to be doing just fine. EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code. and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, please, please wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. eArts Cambodia's audience is growing. Our YouTube channel now has 150,000 verified subscribers. To mark the milestone, we've received the Silver Creator Award from YouTube, given to channels with over 100,000 subscribers. YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki says the award celebrates eArts Cambodia's hard work and incredible achievement. She says not only has eArts Cambodia brought a unique voice and style to the world, but has also created valuable connections and built a community along the way. The next milestone we're going for is 1 million subscribers, and we'd really like that Gold Creator Award. So if you're not already a subscriber, head to www.youtube.com/eArts Cambodia. Subscribers get all the latest breaking news and updates from Cambodia in English. We'll see you there. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. A shocking story out of Svay Rieng province. A 4-year-old girl has allegedly been murdered by a 9-year-old and 14-year-old boy. The girl was found on Tuesday morning with a charging cable wrapped around her neck. EAC News reporter Reo Soko has our top story.
The little girl was found unresponsive in her home in Suai Chrum district of Svay Rieng on Tuesday morning. A mobile phone charging cable was wrapped around her neck. Initially, it was thought the death was an accident, but an initial police investigation has confirmed their worst suspicion. This was murder. 2 young boys, aged 9 and 14, have been arrested. They are in the custody of authorities, being too young to be formally charged with the crime. Svay Rieng police have told EAC News that they cannot provide any further details just yet, with their investigation still ongoing. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. As the country continues to battle the spreading Delta variant of COVID-19, Siem Reap has declared 2 new red zones, joining other border provinces in tightening up preventative measures. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko has the details.
The Siem Reap Provincial Administration has declared Pralay and Korksnol villages as red zones. Both are located in the Puok district. They will be in total lockdown until the 14th of September. Other administrative measures across the province remain in place until further notice. Across the provincial border, Pria Vihyar has 3 active red zones. The villages of Kulengchon and Kulentapon, both in the province's Kulen district, and the whole of Chuangsan district are in lockdown until next Wednesday. Also along the border, Bingche Mengche is home to 2 red zones, Tok Tla and Kampong Savai, both in Seray Soporn City. Cambodia is placing special attention on its provinces with border Thailand, with most Delta variant cases being detected in migrant workers returning from the country. Yuri Matosko, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. The Health Ministry is reportedly working on an exit strategy to ease COVID-19 restrictions and get the country ready to live in a new normal. Health Ministry spokeswoman Or Van Dien has been quoted as saying that the kingdom needs to start learning how to live with the virus, but says for now, preventative guidelines issued by the government will remain in place. Current restrictions in Phnom Penh are due to expire next Friday. EAC News reporter Johnny McCune has more.
For the capital's high-risk businesses, the new normal couldn't come soon enough. They've been closed since early March, but the sight of people wearing masks, socially distancing, and avoiding crowds as much as possible is probably with us to stay. 80% of the population has already received 2 doses of the vaccine. Cambodia, like Singapore, is striving to reach herd immunity, even with the variants likely to stay with us. The new normal is going to mean living with COVID much the same way as we live with the flu. World Health Organization representative to Cambodia, Dr. Lee Allen, says that the WHO is very pleased that the overall COVID-19 situation is now improving in Cambodia. At the same time, the Health Ministry is looking at expanding the vaccine drive to include children aged 10 to 12. It's looking to use the Sinovac doses, which continue to stream into Phnom Penh International. Sinovac is already being used in children as young as 3 in China and is being used to inoculate Cambodian children in the 12 to 17 age group. Johnny McCune, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. An unintended misunderstanding about a work of art. This is what Fa Parnluselpak has had to say in response to critics of its music video of Love Lost Beauty. Funded by the US Embassy, the music video was released to mark what would have been the 89th birthday of the great Khmer artist Sin Sisamut. He was known as the Emperor with the Golden Voice from the 1950s to the 1970s and died at the hands of the Khmer Rouge. On his 89th birthday, the US Embassy released the music video performed by Sin's granddaughter. But one section of the video has critics in an uproar. EAC News reporter Reo Soko explains.
Love Lost Beauty by the great Sin Sisamut, now performed as a duet by his granddaughter. But it's this scene, arguably devoid of any beauty, that has caused a storm of protest on the US Embassy's Facebook page. Union of Journalist Federations of Cambodia President Hoi Vanak has raised questions about the real intentions of the music video. He says the song was by a famous Khmer singer, but has complained about all the garbage in the background. He questions why the people behind the project chose not to rather show the country's treasures instead of trash. Fa Parnluselpak's executive director, Osman Hawaja, has urged people to see the music video in its entire context. He says one important image that hasn't been discussed amidst the controversy is the Heritage Movie Theater at the center of it, describing it as a real historical treasure in the heart of Battambang. Hawaja has reminded people that it is where the great musical films of Sin Sisamut played a generation ago. He says that to see the granddaughter of the legend singing a duet with him there and with the big screen lit up again with a new Cambodian art is a real demonstration of cultural pride and resilience.
Sin Sisamut songs are accessible to everyone, regardless of class, wealth, social standing. It actually shows that they can be an inspiration to youth today, as well as those living in desperate situations. This creative project is really about giving these young artists a platform to perform for new audiences online during this pandemic, to help them tap into the power, resilience, and beauty of Cambodian culture.
The Love Lost Beauty music video is just one scene in a cutting-edge musical fantasy film inspired by the classical love songs of Sin Sisamut. The movie will be released by Fa later this year. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. It's a new month and a new start for Afghanistan. The Taliban is moving quickly to assert itself a day after Western evacuations were completed from Kabul's Hamid Karzai International, and the last US troops left Afghan soil after 20 years of occupation. The Taliban, parading themselves victoriously on the tarmac of an airport that was the center of the world's attention for the past week. Over 125,000 Western diplomats and some of the Afghans who worked for them were airlifted during one of the largest operations of its kind in history. But thousands of Afghans have been left behind. The Taliban says they have nothing to fear and there is no longer a need for war. Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid says the group wants diplomatic relations with the United States as well as with other countries around the world as it seeks to rebuild a country shattered by decades of civil war, invasion, and occupation. The group says its first job is to reopen Kabul's main airport. Elsewhere in the capital, though, possibly predictable scenes of what some members of the Taliban really think about their former occupiers. This was billed as a celebration by a group that is promising peace, stability, and socio-economic development in a new Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Across the region, there is a sense of resignation that isolating the Taliban is not going to be an option, and that engagement is going to be key to ensuring regional security. In Qatar, Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani was hosting his German counterpart. He told the media he's choosing to look on the bright side.
We believe that isolation is not an answer, yet the recognition is still not a priority for us. So this is given our assessment that Taliban being isolated in 1996 has led us to the situation that we were in previously in Afghanistan. Yet we have seen that the engagement can give us some positive results.
He is urging countries around the world to work with the Taliban, as another power vacuum would be the worst possible outcome for the international community. Not one country has yet formally recognized the Taliban as the government of Afghanistan. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Well, let's have a look now at some other news making headlines around the world this Wednesday, the 1st of September.
Firefighters are waging an all-out battle in strong winds to protect homes near Lake Tahoe from California's Sierra Nevada range wildfire known as the Calder Fire. It has been burning since mid-August. Tens of thousands of residents and tourists have been evacuated from the popular resort. According to the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, the fire is moving closer to more heavily populated areas. The department has closed all 18 national forests in California in the midst of a fire season already shaping up as one of the worst on record. The fire is only 13% contained.
A double tragedy in Peru. A bus plunged into a ravine outside the capital Lima. 32 people, including 2 children, have been killed. The bus was carrying 63 passengers. One survivor said the bus started to zigzag and passengers were asking the driver to stop, but he kept going. At the same time, 2 riverboats full of passengers crashed into a barge on Sunday night in Peru's largest Amazon region. At least 20 people are dead. 50 others are still missing. Reporters rushed to the scene to speak to survivors. This man was asked if his wife had made it. He told the reporter that his wife and 7-year-old son had both been killed.
And researchers are hoping that Brazilian viper venom could become a tool in the fight against COVID-19. Brazilian researchers have found that a molecule produced by the Jaracuçu pit viper inhibits coronavirus reproduction in monkey cells by 75%. The molecule is a peptide, a chain of amino acids that can connect to an enzyme of the coronavirus, without damaging other cells. The University of São Paulo says the peptide can be synthesized in the laboratory, so capturing or killing snakes for their venom is unnecessary.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. It's been pouring down in Tokyo, but it hasn't put a dampener on Paralympic glory. More world records were smashed on Tuesday and Wednesday, with Britain notching up its 1,000th gold Olympic-Paralympic medal since new funds were injected into British sport after the country's disastrous showing at Atlanta back in 1996. Dame Sarah Storey won her 16th gold medal in the women's C5 cycling time trial. Most of the action, though, was on the drenched surface of the athletics track. Before we get to that, though, great news for Cambodian sports fans. Our Paralympian, Van Von, has reached Wednesday night's final of the T54 100-meter men's wheelchair race. He qualified with a new personal best and will start in the 7th lane. Elsewhere, French runner Charles-Antoine Kaku achieved a surprise victory in the men's T20 400-meter final. Mexico's Jose Rodolfo Garcia could hardly hide his delight at winning gold in the T38 400-meter final. In the women's T64 200 meters, it was a great day for the Dutch as they picked up gold and bronze. Marleen van Gansevinkel roared with delight as she crossed the finish line in a new Paralympic record time of 26:22. She was followed by Germany's Irmgard Bensuan in second and fellow Dutch runner Kimberly Alcamada in third. In the women's T11 100 meters, Venezuela's Linda Patricia Perez Lopez won gold, having watched her sister pick up a bronze medal earlier in the day. Archery also provided a stunning spectacle, with China's He Xiao firing 9 successive 10-point arrows to take home the gold medal.
From China is your Paralympic.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. Venezuela and Argentina are busy training ahead of their World Cup qualifier in Caracas on Thursday night. The game is part of a triple header of World Cup qualifiers in South America over the course of the next week. Brazil play Chile on Thursday, with Venezuela then facing Peru the following Thursday.
It's all to play for Venezuela. Brazil topped the South American qualifying group after 6 games, 6 points ahead of a second-place Argentina. The top 4 teams qualify automatically for Qatar 2022. Venezuela and Argentina face off at Caracas Olympic Stadium. While the players get training, fans are getting tested. A makeshift mobile testing center has been set up at the Olympic Stadium. The Venezuelan government is limiting match capacity to 30%. Fans must test negative for COVID-19 if they hope to attend.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. European football's annual summer transfer window has closed, and Kylian Mbappe will be staying at Paris Saint-Germain. The club rejected Real Madrid's almost $200 million offer, but it'll likely be Mbappe's last summer in Paris anyway. His contract is due to end next year, and he has already said he's keen for a move to Spain. And while they held on to Mbappe, PSG have signed Portugal fullback Nuno Mendes on a season loan from Sporting Lisbon. The loan also includes an option to make the move to PSG a permanent one. He'll have big shoes to fill, though, if Mbappe does leave next year, with him being the club's top scorer. The biggest headline of the transfer season, though, was the sensational move back to Atletico Madrid for French forward Antoine Griezmann. He's on a season-long loan from Barcelona with the option to make it a 2-season deal. Atletico managed to secure his return in the final hours of the transfer window. They paid just over $140 million for him back in 2019, but details of the loan deal have not been released. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Signs the world is slowly returning to normal after an almost 2-year pandemic are always a pleasure to see. Last year's event was cancelled, but Peru's crazy car race was back on the